What does it take to be a successful entrepreneur? A dangerous amount of coffee and a ton of grit. My name is Jason Tracy, and every week I interview business leaders to share their stories, life lessons, failures, and advice with you. Welcome to Coffee and Grit. Roar. We got the Lions on TV tonight. We got the roar going on Coffee and Grit. We got Desiree Martinez in the studio. Super excited. And what you all just missed was Grant and Desiree spitting bars. That was fantastic. I hope that is added in. Grant said he was going to burn it, but I had.
That's assuming it isn't already gone.
Assuming it's already self-destructed. But I love it because Desiree's like, we should all be weird, right? Like, it's my brand, and like, if we all just sang and the lyrics to songs, like, the world would be a better place. And so I'm super excited to jump in and have this conversation. So Desiree is the owner of All in One Social.
Yep.
Let's jump in. Desiree, how's it going?
I feel like an imposter because I am team tea, not team coffee. I feel like I'm not allowed to be here.
This is tea and grit today. We'll take it.
Yeah, like, sorry, you guys and your black bean water. It's just I don't understand. It's so bitter.
It's so bitter. What's so awesome? Like a few guests ago, I had this guy who has a podcast, and he has a coffee roaster that made an official pot coffee for his podcast. And so, long story short, I'm now going down this route of having an official coffee of Coffee and Grit, and it doesn't have like all the color and the acidity and all the stuff that we were just talking about. I'm super excited about.
Oh, dude, we're doing that.
Yeah, we're doing lines. I literally do it on a post. I have two roasters
that makes sense. It's a product that's on brand for you. Like,
yeah,
do it, dude.
I know. I was like, dude, can I steal?
I don't like it, but I will drink it for you.
We'll make a tea. We'll make a tea just for you.
Yeah, I mean, we want to go that route. Yeah.
So I met Desiree from a friend that I had met during the pandemic on LinkedIn, who lives all the way out in Arizona, Tisha Marie Pelletier. And she was coming last summer to see a client here in Brighton, which I thought small world enough as it was. She had a client all the way in Brighton, Michigan, who happened to, by the way, share the same co-working space as me. So I see Raul, insane, how small of a world it is. And then it was really cool because she Tisha connected all the people that she knew from Michigan and got this gathering. And so the second time around that she actually came in, she got sick the first time, Desiree was there, and I got a chance to meet her, and we talked a little bit and talked about doing podcasting. And then several months later, we ran into each other again at a chamber event. And so got to kind of reconnect and put this on the schedule, and I'm just kind of excited to learn more about you.
Here we are. What do you want to know? I'm an open book.
Open book. So how did you get started?
That's a very boring story. I've told 1,000 times, but here we go.
Yeah.
I, like most people in the 2000s, graduated from college, and then the recession started, and I had no way to make a living. I have a background in multimedia art and animation, and I was living with my parents, and I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do with my life now. That's a 12-year plan that went down the toilet. And so my mom had handed me this website. I lived in Phoenix, Arizona, which is how I met Tisha, actually. My mom was like, you should go to these networking events at this site. It was called networkingphoenix.com. She's like, go network and see if you can like get some freelance work. And I was like, sure. I mean, what do I gotta lose? And I started networking, and I was so out of my depth. Like, I was this 23, 24-year-old kid, had no idea what they were doing. And I was like, I would like to make art for you. Like, it was very awkward. But one of the things that kept coming up in these different spaces I would go to is they'd be like, what's this Facebook thing? And it's so hard to think about it, like in 2023, heading into 2024, like there was a time when people like did not know what Facebook was. I had got on Facebook when you could only get it with college email. Like, I've been on it for a minute. Like, if you go back into time on Desiree's Facebook account, you can see that like I have pictures. I got into Facebook when I lived in Italy doing a study abroad program for my college. I studied art in Italy. That's what you do there. And it's like Italy had won the World Cup when I was there. And so it was just like no one in the country did anything for like 3 days but like drink and celebrate and chant and sing. And there's all these pictures.
What a great time to be there.
I know, right? A total great accident. Like, it's the best. But I have all these pictures of me drinking, having fun, and being in college, and like all these like dumb posts and things that you say. And so I have all these adults that are like, what's this Facebook thing? I'm like, why are you old people hanging out on my face? But it ended up being this like really great gift. And so what I started doing is teaching people how to use Facebook as a way to like network and grow their business and how it would work. And one day I was talking with somebody about it through a networking event, and he was like, you should just do this as a business. I'm like, dude, no one's going to pay me on Facebook. Like, that's ridiculous. But here we are.
Here we are.
Almost 15 years later. This is what I've been doing for a living. It's been a long time. I have seen Facebook through the like ringer. Like, a lot of people don't know, like heading into 2024, that is it's 20 years that Facebook has existed. Wow. I got onto it in 2006, and it's gone and changed and done so many things. It's literally changed the landscape of like how we communicate and exist as individuals, let alone businesses and professionals. And so I've been doing it for so long, and because I've been doing this for so long, I've seen all the changes. And there are some foundational things like just never really change about Facebook, not from like a how to use it perspective, like what you should be doing on it perspective, which I'm totally happy to like dive into eventually. But that's how I got there. But what happened was about 6 years into my business, I had gotten married, I had a kid, became an Air Force wife, and we got stationed in this town in the middle of nowhere in Texas. And every base, every post, every installation around the world has a spouses group on Facebook. And it's where all the spouses go to connect and like learn about, like spill the tea on like the place that they're about to live in. So the first thing anyone does when they get orders is they go find the Facebook group and they join it so they can learn everything they need to know so they can be ready when they get there. And so, but then you also stay involved and ask questions and find out about stuff. And so one of the things that kept happening and kept posting over and over again was people couldn't find work. Now, I grew up a Marine Corps kid, and my mom had this exact same issue when I was a kid back in the 90s, where she couldn't get work because she was a Marine Corps wife. And I was like, how is this an issue 25 years later? And I was like, this is not okay. Well, push come to shove. What a lot of people don't know is that military spouses have the highest unemployment rate and underemployment rate in the country. It's 48%. And so I'm like, well, I can help. And so I train military spouses to be social media managers, then put them to work doing package-based social media marketing services for businesses. That way they can work anywhere that they're stationed around the world. We're offering a really great service to businesses that are good at doing what they do, which is their job. And so I've been doing that for 8 years now. And again, the landscape has changed a lot. What we offer has changed a lot, but the foundation and mission of the business still stays the same.
I love how you've had that problem, and now you're helping people transition and build an awesome career.
Yeah, like my team that I have with me, I've worked for years. Like they like the thing about military life is there's so many things that are unsteady and inconsistent about it, and work gives you consistency. And for them, that's what they want. Like my social media manager, her name is Abby. She is fantastic. She's a college degree in English and literature, and she now has 4 boys. And she came to me, I think right after she had her second son, and she was like, I really want to do this because I need something for myself. I need to use my brain, and I need to do things that have nothing to do with taking care of kids or doing military things or demanding what the mission needs, or if like my husband's deployed. Like it's her steady thing for herself that she can do. And I'm like, that's a big deal. My project manager, her husband has gone from being in the Army, and he went into the reserves, and now he's out. But it was a lot of that same stuff for her, like being able to count on some things that she had going on. Like we really, people that don't serve, don't understand the power of consistency in so many ways, but definitely when it comes to like, when you're talking about like your living situation, when you don't know what's going on, being able to count on something is a really big deal. And so we understand the culture, we understand the language, we understand our problems together. We get together, probably about once a month and just talk about things and catch up so we can like be there to support each other. And I think that that's just really important.
So, I mean, again, you're like solving that problem that you saw your mom have, and creating a community.
Yeah, it's definitely community-driven business. And what's really great is when we bring customers in, they get to be a part of that community. We always know, though, when like customers are not going to last because they don't do some specific things. Usually it's like, in the state of social media, you have to help. Like we can't just do it all for you. Like we have to work together. We're trying to make this as easy for you as possible, but they're still a little resistant sometimes. But when they can stay, they stay, and they stay for years, and they love what we have to offer and who we are and what our community is, and how we help and support them and each other.
Well, it's important though that you weed out those people that aren't the right fits.
Yes, it's really important to do that. It gets a little frustrating sometimes because it's one of those things, like the common reason that people leave is because they aren't doing what is necessary for it to succeed. again, we're coming in 25 years of social media marketing. And I literally just saw a post on LinkedIn today where someone was like posting a job for like a LinkedIn consultant or a LinkedIn like manager. And the job description was like, oh, you also have to do email marketing and video, and you have to do YouTube management and website stuff. And it's like, those are 4 different jobs away from LinkedIn. Like, social media isn't just an add-on. Social media is also just one person's job once you get to certain places in your business. Like, people just don't understand it and don't prioritize it as much as they should. And it's really frustrating from my standpoint, because I've been fighting this educational standpoint my entire professional career, but it's part of the fight and it's part of the thing. So when people get it, they get it right and they do a good job.
Before we get back at it, a quick shout out for our sponsor, Playbook Builder, powered by AI. This show has always been about giving the resources and the tools to small business owners in order to grow and scale your businesses successfully. And so I'm so excited to partner with a company that does just that. If you've listened and heard any of our guests, you've heard talking about building process, developing and training, building culture, are all such important pieces in order to building a great company. Well, Playbook Builder, powered by AI, has come along and revolutionized the game on how you can do that for your team and people. Whether you're onboarding new people, training and developing, continued training and developing, you're looking to scale your business or eventually sell, or most importantly, you're looking to build a legacy as a visionary. Playbook Builder, powered by AI, is able to solve those problems for you. For me as a consultant, I've been able to plug in, and it's so amazing for what I do for clients. I can now leave a legacy. And so, for example, I'm next week training a new hire for a company, and I've been able to build out the next month of her training program using Playbook Builder, powered by AI. The cool thing about the AI, what does that do? What's the hardest part of building out a process? Taking this step by step and making it easy to learn. What the AI piece does is you can actually type in what process it is, whether you want to onboard, if you want to onboard a new employee, type in onboard a new employee and what type of industry you're in, and the AI will put together a foundation for you to build out your playbook. It is absolutely incredible. But don't take my word for it. Head on over to playbookbuilder.com, and these guys have set it up to where you can take this for a test run with no obligations. Plug in what kind of playbook you want to build. If it's a sales training playbook, for example, plug that in the description. And in the description, you can also put in what kind of industry you're in, and then hit generate, and it will generate a playbook for you. Impress from there, and you can take a 30-day free trial of the playbook system altogether. How do you bring the people in and then teach them? Does a lot of them have this skill set anyways from the social media standpoint? I mean, they're using social media. Like, how do you bring them in?
Like with social media managers?
Yeah.
Well, how I've done it is I usually interview them. I'm not super concerned with like their resumes and their experiences. A lot of what I do is I put them through a test. And so our test is like, I give them a client. We have a new client questionnaire that everyone fills out. It's like everything you need to know about this client as much as they can tell us, like who they are, how to contact them, what their mission is, what their brand voice is, who are the people that live there, how did they get started, who are their competitors, like all the information that we can gather. And it's pretty timely for our customers to fill out, but it's necessary foundational stuff to teach a complete stranger about your brand. And so I give it to them and I say, I want you to create me 14 days of content. And it's like, I want to know I want to know what the messaging is going to be. I want you to include hashtags, and I need you to include media direction, like what you would want to do from a video or like a photo, like an image perspective, or sharing links, and like want to see what this looks like, and let them develop it. And I give them a deadline. Usually it's like about 3 or 5 days. And then depending on what they give me back will depend on if they move on to the next step. And then the next step is I put them through, okay, now we're going to do a trial run, and then they have to generate content for our customer and work through our system and our and all that kind of stuff. So they get their real ring. And again, it's kind of the same thing as our clients. Like we know usually after the first month if someone's going to work or not.
Yeah.
And they have to be able to do the work also independently on their own. Like, so it's also time management. So them being able to know that like you have to get this done by this time is also really important. Like, cause we don't have a lot of limitations. Like as contractors, we can't control like when they do things and make them show up for things like that, but they are responsible for deadlines and meeting the work that gets done. And when they don't work, they don't work. And it's usually pretty obvious right at the gate.
What types of businesses are you working with, and kind of clients you're working with?
So the ones that we work best with are service-based businesses. So these are the people that work in their businesses, they don't necessarily have a lot of time to work on their businesses. So these are going to be people that I always call them like kind of like boring businesses, or the everyday business that everybody needs. And they're the ones that are doing the work. So like lawyers, plumbers, electricians, people in like home restoration. Those are the best customers for us because they're usually working in their businesses and they don't get to work on their businesses quite as well. And a lot of it's because too, I can also give them really specific direction because they can capture content while working. And a lot of times they do it without even realizing that they're doing so many of them create like before and after videos, or they like record something really crazy that's happened. I'm like, I want all that stuff from you guys and we'll turn that into social content for you. And they're like, well, no one's going to care. I was like, yes, they are. I was talking to a guy today who does water systems, like putting a water filter on your water softener for all the people that have a well, right? In Michigan, that's the thing we have here. And he's like, I don't understand how people find this interesting. And I was like, I literally have a friend who has built up a following of over 700,000 people on YouTube about drywall. Water is a lot more interesting than drywall.
Yeah.
Like if you think watching paint dry is boring, what about the thing that you put the paint on? Like that's a totally thing. He's built a massive business from that's totally like funded his business out in Florida, and he's done an amazing job. It's always important. So one of the things that business owners always get hung up on is they don't think that they're interesting or what they have to offer has value or whatever outside of like what we just do. Like, well, we just do our job and that's it. And it's like, no, like there's so much that goes into this. Like I'm a social media marketer. You find what I do interesting and you have no idea what I do. So you ask me questions and you want to know how things happen and how it works. And so it's the same thing in other businesses. And so if like you can explain, and especially because they have such a visual business, like, well, I create visuals, like me just sitting at my desk all day or in front of a camera all day isn't super like interesting outside of like what I'm giving in the information. When people get to go out and about and like be in a business, like there's so many cool different things that you can see and problems that people encounter. They don't even realize are actual issues.
I have a lot of things when I'm sitting down with clients, and it's just even their stories that they don't think are interesting. The ones that they least want to tell because they're the vulnerable things and stuff like that's like, oh, that's something that everybody needs to hear.
Well, yeah, like being a business owner is hard. Like being a person is hard.
Yeah.
You know, we all go through different seasons and struggles in our life, and we think that everyone only cares about the highlight reels and that like that's all that we as business owners want to see. Being a business owner, I was just talking to someone this morning about being a business owner is so monumentally lonely and hard. Because so many people don't get it. Like when I go to pick up my kids from school, and I talk to the parents that are around me, they don't understand the idea that I'm a YouTuber and that I get paid to be a YouTuber. They're like, doesn't even literally the follow-up question is always, well, what does your husband do? And I'm like, my husband's a stay-at-home dad. And they're like, excuse me, what? Like, how does your life work? Like, it's just this whole, they don't get it, right?
Yeah.
Like they have traditional, you know, jobs that most people are used to. So being a business owner is not a traditional job. And it's not something people like aim to do. Most people just want to work for a business, make a paycheck that's a good living wage that lets them live their life and beyond with their day. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like I grew up that life. That's my parents are like this. So many people do. And that's how we as business owners can have success because we can create something for those kinds of people. But being a business owner is really lonely and it's hard. If we don't know that other business owners are having a hard time or they're having struggles or like how they got through them or like how they conquered them, like we are going to all fail. Like I am in a really rough season of my life. Like I'm coming out of it now. Like I've gotten like some really solid clarity to deal with like personal issues and stuff that's been going on. But all those personal things are really affecting my business. Yep. And I'm like, okay.
Because you're a person.
Yeah, because I'm a human. I'm a human first and then I'm a business owner. Like it's kind of how that works. And you know, there's all these other things that are there. It's like, so in order for me to get past, like I've had to like do a lot of work. I've had to like go to therapy. I've had literal meltdowns. I've had literal weeks where I just can't show up and work and do anything. We don't talk about that. No one knows. And everyone feels like a complete freak because they don't know anybody that's struggling or having a hard time. So when you find somebody that's like sharing those vulnerable situations, those struggles, you're like, oh my God, I thought I was alone. I thought that this was like, I thought I was the problem. It's like, no. Things are hard. Seasons happen. Like stuff's going on. And I think that what's so contradictory to the world of social media, which is supposed to be about sharing stories and connecting and being social, we've gotten into this space of like, we have to like tailor how we talk and what we share and show online. And we really should be showing the good just as much as we're, and the bad as much as we're showing the good. I'm not saying like it needs to be like, a crap show all the time, but it does need to be like victories along with like the hardships that lead to the victories.
Because that's where we get most of our growth from. A lot of times we're avoiding
You literally
failure.
cannot grow
You
without shit.
Yeah.
Like that's the foundation of plants and life, and you have to have hard stuff.
And then even if you do grow without the shit, what is it if you just win? Really, what is it? Like you just win. You just wake up and life is good. Like what is it even an accomplishment?
I don't think it's an accomplishment. I think it puts you into a place of complacency and I think stagnation. And I don't think that, I think about this from like the perspective of my children and like what my parents went through and what my grandparents went through. My grandfather fought in the Korean War, and he came back. He's from Michigan, he lives in Owasso, and he went and worked in plants making parts for cars like some people in Michigan do, and he turned into a Teamster. He started the credit union in the town that my family's from, in Owasso, Michigan.
You're from Owasso?
Yeah.
I grew up in Owasso. I
Oh my
graduated
gosh,
from Owasso.
so
That's so
funny.
crazy. When you said Owasso, I was like,
Smallest town ever. It's small. Everyone's from Owasso. I'm convinced. I know so many people. It's so funny. But like my family is from there. Like we're the Ford family. Like that's my maiden name. And so I know Michigan cliche, but it is what it is. And he did all this stuff. And then my dad went to the Marine Corps. And he did all this work for 10 years and did all that stuff. And he got hurt. And so he got out and he went into school and went to this programming. And, like how he grew up is different than how I grew up. And how my grandfather was different than how my dad grew up. And it's like, so we give each other advantages so we don't have to be in these specific kinds of places. So I think about where my kids are going to start off. They're not going to start off having like the having to go into the military, having to go to college isn't an option for them because they're not going to have that as like a roadblock or limitation. They're going to be handed businesses.
yeah.
They're going to be handed like a higher starting place in life than so many people. So it's sort of like, okay, how do they grow? Like what's their growth going to look like? What are the struggles that they're going to face? And what are the obstacles the world is going to place in front of them? Because it's how it works, but you never have to start over every single time. Right. So when we talk about like the struggles that we go through as individuals, we have to think about like, okay, where was I last year? Where was I 3 years ago? Where was I 5 years ago? And when I look at that for myself, 5 years ago, we were trying to figure out what we were going to do as a military family. We're like, where are we going to go? We lived in Las Vegas and we're like, what are we going to do? And we were literally like, why don't we get an RV and become a full-time RV family and go figure out where we want to live because we've never lived anywhere. I'm a military kid. He's a military kid. We've never had a home, right? I'm not from anywhere. That's a very weird thing, especially here in Michigan, where everyone is from Michigan 3 to 4 generations deep. And we're like, let's go figure this out. And it was like, then we ended up actually going back to Phoenix where we had met originally. My parents lived there and my husband was having all stuff. And then we found out, oh no, what actually happened was my husband had trauma and PTSD and became a disabled veteran from that situation 4 years ago. And then right after he got his diagnosis of his PTSD and his trauma, COVID started. And so that's where I was 3 years ago. Like, we're dealing with COVID and like the craziness, like all these speaking gigs I had lined up were gone away. Like, how am I going to make business? How am my business going to work? Like, I literally saw the sharp, everyone panicked and like canceled. And then the sharp up of everyone's like, I need this.
Yeah.
And all these other opportunities blew up that came from it. 2 years ago, we were miserable in Phoenix because our family wasn't quite what we wanted to. Our friends unit was non-existent anymore. And we're like, if we're going to be miserable, if we're going to be lonely, we might as well do it somewhere where we like where we live and we can afford to live there. And it's just has more opportunities. We moved to Michigan. So it's like there's all these different obstacles and things that we have faced and trauma and stuff we've gone through. Without those stories, without those experiences, we can't grow and adapt and figure out like what's the next place that we need to be. And as business owners, those are the foundations. Those are the brickwork for how we are and who we are and why we are. I have a business and I'm doing what I'm doing because I have this military spouse community that I want to support. And also because my husband needed me to replace his income so that he could heal.
Yeah.
And like, that's what drives me. But without those experiences, where would I be?
It's so true. This is what this show is all about. I started the show because I was having conversations with other entrepreneurs out, and it was like, when I started my business, I was going out and seeking other people. I was going out and seeking the stories, and I was learning so much from people. I was becoming a better person, better blah, blah, blah. But it was like, there are so many other people that are not going out and having these conversations. So I'm going to create, because people need to hear these stories. They need to hear that other people are struggling too. This guy that is like, or person that's created this business that you look up to didn't have a silver spoon in their mouth. They went through struggles. And when you thought they were successful, they were in their car crying because they weren't making payroll, and like but guess what? There's success leaves clues in these stories. But I love recently how a lot of my guests, and yourself included, have been vulnerable to say, I'm going through a tough season right now. Because I think that's just as important as people coming on and saying, I'm successful and I've done this and this.
You cannot be successful without down seasons.
Yep.
Like success, there's a level of luck, yes, for sure. But I don't think that any person truly is successful without hardship. I just don't think it's possible.
I agree, but there's so many people that don't do this, where like hold themselves in their dreams because they're afraid of failing. And it's like, I had this conversation. This is the last episode. It's like, you're gonna fail, go do it, or you're gonna regret it.
Fail, get it over with. Okay,
yeah.
Move on. It's that kind of idea. There's so many. I'm again. One of the efforts like I'm trying to do now that I'm from Brighton, like I get to tell people like I'm from Michigan now. I've had to go on this adventures. Like, what does it mean to be a part of a community? And it's a weird concept. It's kind of like how people that live somewhere are never tourists where they live. Like they don't go experience local stuff. People forget that there's a community they get to be a part of. And so I'm like, how can I be a part of this community? And so, I mean, my kids go to school, we do stuff, and we're slowly trying to do more and more things and stuff. And I've joined a B&I group up in an adjacent town. It's like a Livingston County kind of one. Mm-hmm. B&I, for those that don't know, it's Business Networking International, where you have one person per industry in the group and you refer business back and forth to each other. And to me, I found this really great group because one of my neighbors is actually in it. And from that group, I have found one of our most wonderful family friends from it. Like, it's like he's in the group. He's best friends with my husband, and I'm really good friends with his wife, and our kids play together. It's a whole like moment, right? And I'm taking the time to get mentored by a woman in that group who's been in for a long time and has had a lot of success. I'm like, what does it mean to be part of a community? And like, what are you doing to have success and to contribute and be a part of it? And when I talk with her about stuff, like I tell her about like what I'm going through, and she tells me about what she has gone through and like the things that they've struggled with. Like, she's in the print business. Talk about a business that has gone through like the ups and downs, and she has been able to weather and persevere and adapt. And I'm like, that's what I need to know, how that works. What does that look like? Especially from like, cause they do business all over the country, but it's also like from a local perspective too. Like, how does your local community support you and help you and, all that kind of stuff. And so, and as women, and this is a woman specific thing, women need people. I know that there's a whole thing like men need people too, and I can't speak from that obviously perspective. Like, my husband needs a friend, but he doesn't need like lots of people. Like, women are community based. Women need other women to turn to. That's why like there's this whole find your tribe sort of thing. Like, find your people to help like build your village to help support you in all the situations for things that you can't do. And so that's why I think building community is so important, because then you can learn from each other's experiences and problems and struggles. And again, in every element of our lives, learning from other people's struggles and stories, other people's failures, learning from our own allows us to shape us into better people. And it's our job to learn from them and adapt from them, and then put the appropriate actions to move forward in them. Nothing's worse than being stuck, for sure, but it's why you have to keep researching and finding and exploring to find the answers.
Like, yeah, when you're in a stuck in a season, what do you do?
It's such a hard thing to figure out. Well, one, therapy.
Yeah.
I recently got into therapy for myself. My husband has been in therapy for a while, especially with trauma therapy for his PTSD. My son got diagnosed with ADHD, and he's being tested for autism, and he's in therapy. And it's been really insightful to get like information about like, okay, this is what he's doing, and this is how we can help him, and finding like these small little adjustments that we can help make him get better. And I've had a really hard year. Like, I came off the high of a great 2022, like one of my record years for like income and growth and progress and speaking and all of these things that were really great happened. I accomplished my goals. It was a whole vibe, right? I went in 2023 ready to do all this stuff. And it was like the world was like, let's try this. And it was like, bleh, and it was all these problems. And it's been really hard. Like, you're talking like everything from like my dog dying to having this realization within myself that my husband's trauma has given me trauma, and having to let go of emotionally parenting my children because of my trauma and my struggles I've gone through, and like carrying the family through all of that stuff, it's affected me really negatively. And I didn't have the tools to care for my kids the way they need to be cared for. And, I've had a really big falling out with parts of my family, and it's just been a lot of hard stuff. And then like business is just a struggle on top of it. The economy is really crazy, and people have to like cut budgets, or they take it in house, or they just don't like how it's going because they're not doing the work. Like there's all these things. And then from like a YouTuber perspective, like AdSense are down. So like I'm not getting paid as much on my videos.
It's like a perfect storm.
It's like all these things. It was like it's been this whole crazy year. And I'm just now starting to come out of it as I head into the end of the year where I can reflect and plan my goals for the next year and like what's my next move and like what I'm going to focus on. How I've gotten through it is stubbornness. Like I think that we have to have some level of stubbornness and like have this constant conversation with ourselves. And it's like, is this really what you want? Is this really who you want to be? Are you going to like, you just going to settle and go back to your life? I also think that there's something to be said for having the right people around you. And it takes the thing that's hard about finding the right person to talk to. You kind of got to talk to a lot of the wrong people, which means you have to keep cutting your wounds open and being vulnerable and exposing yourself. Like, this is what I'm going through. Can you help me? And they'll either say yes or no or the wrong things, and then you'll know if that's the right person to help me. My husband is not the person to help me, right? I think there's a really big farce around the idea of like your spouse is your best friend.
Yeah.
My spouse is not my best friend. My spouse is my spouse. It's a different title.
Different relationship.
Yeah. And so like I have my best friend, and I talked to her about stuff because she also has a husband who has gone through PTSD and all this kind of stuff. She understands my struggles around suicidal ideation from our spouses and all that kind of stuff, and dealing with it, and how do you recover? How do you take care of yourself? And, sometimes I had to literally fly to her house and be like, I can't life right now. Help me, fix me, just baby me for 3 days. And she did. Like, that's kind of the stuff that you need. Sometimes you just need to completely break down. You just kind of have to I have a friend, she wrote a book, and it's got the best title, and it's Rock Bottom Has a Trampoline.
Oh,
And I'm like,
Cheryl
Linda, you are a genius. I'm seeing her in a couple of weeks. She's another military woman I know. She served, had a COVID baby, and like, it's just a barbecue sauce business, and it's this whole thing. And I'm like, that is so true. You cannot jump high on a trampoline without going down first, like negative.
Yep.
And it's really that idea.
Slingshotting back up.
Yeah, so that you can go higher, then you have to crash again to go even higher. Like you have it's like the yin and yang, the balance of it all. And so it's like, rock bottom does have a trampoline, and like I am literally on my bounce out. And it's just time and persistence, and it's self-awareness and it's conversations and talking to people.
Yeah.
And not doing it alone. The worst thing you could ever do is hide in your room or go under the covers or become complacent. There's nothing wrong with taking a beat and going like into maintenance mode, but you can't just shut down. And as much as you might want to, you have to truly fight that instinct and find the people to help you get out of it, because you also really shouldn't do it alone. So the combination of like having the right people in place, like after having lots of hard conversations with people and talking to my best friends, talking to my husband, getting into therapy, medication, like I'm finally in the place now. I'm like, okay, I feel good. I'm like, okay, like all of these words, all these beliefs I had are wrong, and I need to reframe them. So things I would say like, I'm a neurotypical person, a neurodivergent home.
Mm-hmm.
This is why it's not successful. Like I'm just too different from my family. Instead, I've had to reframe it into things like, I'm going to use my strengths to help my family succeed so that they can use their strengths so that we can succeed, right? And it's sort of that idea, like kind of parent the kid you had, not the kid you want. Other limiting beliefs I've had in the past are things like, and this is what I'm still working on, and it's people don't want to pay for my service because they don't find it necessary or valuable. Because I have been doing this for so long, and people just like struggle with like wanting to pay for it. And I'm like, why is this? But it's like, no, it's because how I'm selling it and how I'm wording it is absolutely not working. And I'm not attracting the people that will pay, and will pay more when I change my pricing and go up. So it's like, how do I find those people? And going through the education, that learning period to like figure out how to do it better. Always be open to like learning and growing. And so it's like taking that time and doing that self work. So like right now I'm heading into my listen and learning era so that I can, because I already had my crash and burn era. It's time to listen and learn and rebuild and just grow from there, knowing that I'm going to be stronger and I can get out of it. There's I don't know if you guys have ever seen is it Japanese or Chinese pottery with like gold in it. So when pottery breaks, I think it's the Chinese, when the pottery breaks, they fix it with gold because it gets put back together stronger. So you have to break and be rebuilt to be stronger. And so it's kind of that idea, like that's why, again, you have to break down, you have to go through the hardships in order to have success and to come back stronger.
And I'm sure along the way, you figure out how to help people even better, because you're going to experience people that are going through the same trials in life just like you are.
I love to talk to people. If we cannot tell, I love to communicate and share. I have a podcast I do. It's called Women of Video. And it's talking about like, what's your journey like as a creator? Like, how have you gotten here? What are you doing? What have you overcome? So that all the women that are listening can do it. Like, we're heading into our 200th episode, and it's just lessons and struggles. And like, so that other women and other creators know like the hardships that they've overcome, so that they can understand like what they're going through is hard, and they can grow and they can do things too. I love coaching. I love consulting. I love helping other people come out of their own mud, because I know it's like to not know how to find somebody or what to do to get to that person. And so if I can be that person, I'm always happy to do that for anybody.
I love it because it's people. It's finding people, it's communicating. And I think a lot of times the instinct is just to hold it in and be vulnerable. But when we share that story, like when we share with people, it helps us move forward.
I couldn't agree with you more. And I think that it's also important to remember that like this is more for like our male listeners. Like I know it's like, oh, well, women can talk and all this kind of stuff. Like 13% of men feel that they have someone they could call when they're in crisis. That's not okay.
No.
And it's because somewhere along the line, the narrative for men became that you can't be vulnerable. You can't cry. You can't have feelings. And it's like the mundane BS conversations of sports and weather and whatever. Like, no, let's talk about the hard stuff.
Yep.
Let's talk about like, are you struggling as a parent? Are you struggling at work? Are you struggling with who you are as a person? Like having another man to have that deep conversation with is so important, and they should spend that time finding that person to connect with. I have a theory that like when you get groups of men in 3 or more together, that they become completely stupid, and it becomes this whole like anarchist, like it's a one-to-one kind of thing, really specifically. I've witnessed it firsthand for years. It's awful, but like just finding somebody that you can turn to. I do not, even though I'm a social person, I have a really big network of people and all this kind of stuff, and I'm able to talk and network with a lot of people. I don't have a lot of people that I can turn to for anything. Tisha is one, right? Or that we talked about earlier. I have a friend Crystal that I talked with, and I have my new friend Katie that I've built my friendship with my BNI group. Like those are 3 people in different life places, but like that care for me and they want me to be successful and happy because they love me. And that's what matters most.
It's huge.
Yeah. And everyone needs that. And if you're not getting that from your circle of people or your family, like go find people. And I'm pretty sure you and I would be happy to be the first place of people to start
Absolutely.
with.
Absolutely. If you're listening to this, reach out.
Yeah.
Because that's absolutely it.
Yeah. I'm here. Like, I don't want anyone to ever feel lonely. Like there's no reason for it. We went through COVID. COVID was the loneliest place in the world. And as an extrovert, like I'm such an extrovert that loves people. It was like soul wrenching for me. And so I know that it's hard and there's a lot of things going on, and people just need someone to listen and vent to. And whether you want your problem solved or if you just want to be cuddled a little bit, like let that people be that for you.
This happened. It reminds me of the story, and it's kind of like ties into marketing, right? And so this last January, my dog died. And I was going to a networking event that morning, and it was at Brighton Coffee House. And so I lived right downtown Brighton. So I'm walking to the coffee house, and it just so happened this is my dog's favorite walk. You know, like her favorite spot was next to the coffee house. Like she loved to beeline it to that spot and pee in the grass because it's like fluffy grass. And so I'm walking to the coffee shop, like crying, like the emotions are hitting me. And we get there, and there was another guy that I know is comfortable with his feelings, that I've connected really well with. And so I'm just kind of sharing the raw emotions and how I feel like being an entrepreneur, going through loss. A lot of what we're talking about now, we got to go, we got to wake up and hit the networking groups, and we got to do these things. But life is a disaster. The same week my dog died, a friend of mine I play basketball with died. So it was like two things right back to back. And it's just, so we're talking about loss and grieving and like being a man. And there was a guy in between us who was a financial planner, and he was like uncomfortable. Like, to say uncomfortable would be under exaggerating. He kept on trying to change the topic and changing. He was like, let me ask you guys, what's the best financial investment that you've made in the past year? It's like trying to change it. And then
Read
finally
the room, dude.
he got up and left. Like, it was uncomfortable for him, and he got up and left. And most men don't talk about their feelings because it makes people uncomfortable, or it can, what happened that was really cool though is that guy left, but everybody else in the room moved in closer, and we ended up having we formed great relationships that day because we had just that real talk.
Mm-hmm. That's the thing that's so funny to me about feelings. Like, I find surface level conversation so uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to talk to you about like your day or the weather or oh my God. The worst one for me is like people that only talk about their kids. Like, I love my kids, but I'm not just a mom. Like,
Yeah.
like I had to go through therapy to like say that sentence. Like, it's okay for me not to be just a mom. And it's just like, let's just be people. Let's talk about our feelings or our thoughts and stuff and do more.
It's a lot of times we want to stay on that surface, whether it's solving problems and issues or building relationships, and all the magic happens below that surface.
It really does. Like, people connect, bond, communicate. Your story could change someone's life. Like, remember that.
Absolutely. That's right. I could sit here and talk another hour with you. But I know you have life going on.
I gotta get my kids from school.
Yeah. Anyways, this has been phenomenal, and thank you so much for being vulnerable and having this conversation, because I think it's what people need.
Yeah, like it's so funny you say being vulnerable. I'm literally just being myself.
That's
just being real. Like,
yeah.
Again, if I can help someone else, if I can help change someone's life, if I can like connect with them and help them through my story, like, I'm going to.
I love that though, because I'm that way too. But I don't encounter a lot of people that are just ready.
Yeah, and like even how like even my husband, like, I've asked him, like, is it okay if I talk about this? He's like, yeah, if it can help other people, I don't want my struggle to help others too. So even though he doesn't necessarily like to talk about it because of his trauma and stuff, he's open to it too. So it's like I don't have permission to say these things, right? So it's just, I think if like we had to like wrap this up into a nice bow, like to give people like a send off message, is remember that your story and who you are and your experiences could change someone's life. And I think that we all have some level of like responsibility to find people that we can affect and help and care for. Whether it's you getting from someone or you giving to somebody, like, take that time to connect with people as much as possible so that you can give more light in life to yourself and to others.
People, they'll forget what we do and say, but they'll never forget how we make them feel. And when you can hold space for somebody, because you never know what people are walking through. You never know what they're going through.
No, and like the worst, like the best thing in the world could be the brand of caring. Like, let that be like who you are and what you're about.
Desiree, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, no, I'm here for it. Let's do this again.
Absolutely.